everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Split, the young adult book review podcast for readers and writers. I'm Bryan Cohen, the author of the Ted Saves the World series. That is Robert Scanlon, author of the Dreamer Chronicles. And today, we will have a difficult time letting go of the book that we just read.
Never let me go.
Because we didn't like it. But still, it's always, I think that it's important to review books that we don't necessarily care for on the show. Because, I had a teacher in college who said that he watches every movie that comes out. He is a screenwriting teacher. He watches every movie that comes out because he can learn more from a bad movie, or in our case, a bad book, than you can from a good book. And I think it just teaches you how to get better at what you do.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's that whole idea, isn't it, of always turning a negative into a positive. And I would definitely, with this particular book, which you'll summarize in a bit, I would put myself in the 1-star review camp, no question about it. And I was reading the 1-star reviews last night, and thinking, yeah, totally. And in fact, they even missed some things that I thought were glaringly obvious. But it's kind of interesting. From a writer's perspective, we'll definitely talk about that as well. This is a book that was made into a movie. When I was reading, I was thinking, how do you turn this into a movie with any kind of action and movement? So I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it. You have. So, but I guess we should tell them what it is. And in fact, sorry, I did mean to say, when I was writing my notes, I was thinking, you know what? There's actually quite a lot to learn from this. It's a successful book, and lots of people review it very highly. So, hey, don't listen to us, but listen to our learnings.
Listen to our learnings for Never Let Me Go. It's by Kazuo Ishiguro. Yep. And we tend to review books from the last 5 or so years. This one's from 2005, so a little longer ago. We obviously have a few books from a while back, but so... Yeah, like you said, it was popular enough to be turned into a movie, over 1,000 reviews on Amazon, very popular, and I think I can see why in some ways, but I'm probably in the 2-star review camp myself, 2 or 3, because I think there are some redeeming things in this, but let's summarize it as usual, and then go into our reader and writer takeaways before hitting them with a prompt. Are you ready to let us go into this review?
I need to let this one go, so get on with it.
All right. From their youth, Kathy, Ruth, and Tommy were special. At least that's what their teachers in the secluded Hailsham boarding school always used to tell them. As the years go on, Kathy begins to understand the truth behind their deadly purpose. Will love be enough to save them from their predestined fate? So, we could spoil it and say no, but
it's hard to talk about this book though without spoiling, don't you think?
Yeah. Well, it's not told in a linear fashion. It's all told in flashbacks, and that adds some distance to things. It takes some of the immediacy out, because you already know that, a character is doing what the character is doing now. And there could be a purpose to that, some stylistic purpose, but it does suck a lot of the agency out of things when everything is like, I remember back to when this was happening, and then tells the story. So, it's not... A lot of the books we read and have read on this program are very fast-paced and definitely have a progression of things. And because this one kind of jumps around in time, and there is a general linear fashion to it, but there's a lot of jumping back and forth and thinking about what is happening now versus what happened 15 years ago. And so that muddles things a little. What are your first reader thoughts?
Yeah, it dragged for me for that reason. I think I don't always go well with flashbacks anyway, because I'm a kind of a now action oriented person. So I think that's probably what attracts me to YA in the first place, because I think the YA audience is skewed towards the youngster. So okay, so I'm not young, but the young person who immediacy is important. It's part of where they're at in their life. It's, when you're in your late teens, it's well, early to late teens. It's all about me. Who the hell am I? What makes me different to everyone else? What's my place going to be in the world? And this is a really literary book. I don't even understand why it's placed in a young adult category. Excuse me, because I think the majority of the audience would struggle. He's a Booker Prize winner from The Remains of the Day. It's clearly a literary novel that's won these literary, not just awards, but critiques and such.
Yeah.
And so I think coming to it 10 years after release, when, as you say, we've read an awful lot of other YA books, tends to put it into stark contrast. And so, and I knew nothing about this book or the movie, so I came into it completely cold. I had no idea, and I was actually quite looking forward to it because I saw the summary and saw that it was kind of sci-fi and more classic sci-fi in the John Wyndham sense than the space opera sci-fi. And I struggled with the passive voice, which is huge throughout.
Very passive.
Oh, it's most of the time you're told the story as opposed to having the story related. I mean, there are obviously present tense action stuff in there as well, but there are flashbacks within flashbacks, Bryan. I mean, it's really hard to understand where you're at, and then occasionally. Although I thought this was well done when we come to the writer's perspective, occasionally you'll get the sort of flick ahead but that was nothing compared to what was about to happen in the barn next week. Saying, oh, good, I'm looking forward to that. But then as one reviewer said, yeah, but when you get there, it's just as dull and boring as the previous bit. So for me, it was a dull and boring book that was written in an extremely erudite voice. The grammar and the dialogue is wonderful when there is dialogue. But it dragged. What was the movie like, by the way?
Here's the thing. I don't remember much about it. I know that I saw it. I remember who was in it. I remember the end, but I don't know. Maybe it was just I fell asleep during it. I'm not sure. So that's a tough one. I don't know. I think that I agree with you. The passive makes it hard. But there's things about the general story that are interesting. The world they're in is interesting.
Yes.
I think Tommy is a semi-interesting character. I think Ruth is a semi-interesting character. Kathy isn't that interesting, personally. I think that she has some interesting thoughts here and there, but she's the every man, every woman character. And so there's potential love story stuff in there, friendship story. So it depends on whether you side with the every man, the every woman. If you don't, then you're kind of left in the lurch as far as caring about the story. So
exactly, you hit the nail on the head. What are we caring about? If Kathy's the main narrator, which she is, she's the narrator. And so you're seeing the world through her eyes, but I don't know. What does she want?
Yeah.
I have no idea. I really don't. And so when you're reading a book where you don't know what the protagonist wants, then when you do the identification, then I don't know what I want. And so I think that made it hard from a story's perspective point of view. So then you find yourself trying to, okay, is there another character I can attach to? And as you say, Tommy is probably the one. Because he was kind of cool and he had some quirks there, and you thought he was going to break out into something really important in the story, and he kind of really didn't.
No,
he just faded away, and I'm not going to spoil anything.
No, I agree.
Not that there's much to spoil.
I don't have much more on the reader's thoughts. Do you have any more thoughts?
I do. I think that as a reader, I was required to suspend a lot of disbelief. It is. I liked the fact that the setting was interesting. It's country England. it's clearly some kind of dystopia with, well, not even a dystopia. No,
Utopia.
yeah, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
It's a divided society, but they don't really know about that. There's a lot they don't know. There's a lot of mystery. The entire book is mystery, and we've said how important mystery is before. And so, if
Yeah.
there was anything that kept me reading, it was that mystery. But then I
Yeah.
started to think, as the story evolved, why I don't understand. They would have known more about this. It's been going on for some time. You
You'd
know,
think,
it's
yeah.
in the modern day. It's set in the modern day. Kids are kids. They don't live in the dark. I mean, I'm sure my 12-year-old knows an awful lot more about life than I would necessarily think that she should know
Yeah.
at this age. And so they seem to be very overly kept in the dark, when I would have thought that, well, I understand it's a boarding school, so there was that capacity for that to happen. But since we're talking about, this isn't the first time this has been going on, yeah, I don't know. And then all the
Yeah.
other things about, well, so why didn't they try and extricate themselves from this system? Why were they so accepting? What made the system
Yeah.
in the
Why didn't
first
they just
place?
run away?
Yeah.
Were there people who got in trouble for running away? Like there was that one story of the girl who ran off into the forest at Hailsham, and then like they wouldn't let her back in, and it's like, well, that seems like an option. If she did it,
Lots and
I
lots
don't
of
know.
missed opportunities here, and
Hmm.
you know, if you're not going to read the book, then you should go and read some of the Amazon reviews, because they'll give you a
Yes.
good sense of, and all the 1-star reviews all have spoilers as far as I could see.
Yeah. Oh, sure, sure, sure.
But I worked it out within the first chapter anyway.
Hmm.
And it's a kind of sci-fi premise it's been done a lot anyway. And so if you're going to do it in a literary fashion, I don't know. I'd love to hear from somebody who loved this book. I really would, and as
Yeah,
to
yeah.
why they loved it.
Me
It was
too. Well,
go on.
I think that it's a different way of telling that story because
Yes,
there have
yes,
been
yes.
that, we'll try to stay away from spoilers, but that kind of story has been told before, and there's modern implications to it. So I think it tried to take that to its logical end. And I think so thematically, there are some interesting things. This is a book that a teacher could assign in high school, and there would be a lot of essay questions to
Yeah,
write about it.
yeah, yeah.
So I
I
think
agree.
that gave it, you know,
They gave it the extra 1 or 2 stars for you.
it gave it something.
Yeah. Also,
For me, yeah, I think.
I wonder whether maybe listening to somebody actually narrate it inherently brings some life. Because I did find it really
Sure.
hard. I had to drag myself back to it. I really did, every day. And, it took me a lot longer to read than normal as well. So, I mean, it's not a page turner.
Yeah.
But I imagine if someone's actually speaking it, then at least a passive voice is kind of turned into a semi-active voice by the mere fact that someone's reading it to you.
Yeah, I mean, this was another one where I kind of liked some of the supporting characters better than I liked the main character. Like, the voice for Tommy was just kind of this slightly brash
Oh,
British
cool.
kid.
Nice.
And that was like, it's like, hey, Roof. It was like,
Oh,
kind of
nice.
like,
Nice.
so that added a little bit to it. Whereas, Kathy, the I think the narrator gave Kathy what was on the page, which was not necessarily much.
Though.
She was kind of quiet, demure, and yeah, that's what she had
Yes.
going for her.
Yes. So,
Um,
thinking about Demure as well, there is a fair bit of sexual content in that. It's all
Yep.
it's all inferred, but it's talked about a fair bit. So, certainly for the older teenage reader.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. So let's writer's perspective this. We already kind of touched on this. I think this wasn't my cup of tea point of view wise. It wasn't yours either with so much passive. So I think it took a lot of getting used to. I am sure, and I would love it if we got some response from our listeners on this. I am sure there are passive books that are more described in a more passive way that are good and that are done well. I don't maybe it's been a long time since I've read one, so I'm not sure if there's one like none comes to mind. But I think this is a style that is used. It's not like
Yes.
Ishiguro is the first person to use this style. I'm sure that it's been used, and maybe it's a very literary style, and that's one of the reasons that it was used. But
Yeah.
I think it's not really our standard young adult fare, and so I think it was particularly jarring for us.
Yes, and as you say, in contrast, stark contrast to some of the other books that we've been reading lately, which are very action-oriented page turners with a thrilling and suspenseful element to them, and the suspense in this, Ishiguro has to keep away from us because otherwise it's one of those books where there's really just a simple twist.
Yeah,
but you work
and
it
if
out
you
pretty
spoil
early.
the twist, yeah, but
Yeah, then the rest of it's
but
not that interesting unless you're interested in the
yeah,
development between the characters, which is nicely done, but because it's so distant, I didn't enjoy it.
yeah. And Ruth and Tommy were like I was interested in what was happening
Mm.
there, but maybe seeing things from Ruth or Tommy's perspective might have at least given you a little air from
Mm.
Kathy, who was
Mm.
just kind of boring. And so you get a little, the shift in perspective might have helped with that. I mean, you want to bring readers closer, not keep them at a distance, generally. Like you can break the rules. It's okay to break the rules of what you
Yes.
should do as a writer,
Yeah.
but you risk things when you break fundamental rules. Sometimes it's a great risk, and sometimes it doesn't quite work out. And this, I think, or there was a stylistic attempt with this, but it didn't quite work.
Mm. And I suppose probably worth pointing out as well that young adult really wasn't a genre in 2005.
Yeah, yeah.
So there was no reason to write for a genre, whereas now we do have a very crowded genre in that respect.
Mm-hmm.
Admittedly dominated by the trad pub industry, but I was thinking about this as well. If this book was released as an indie author's attempt, um, I would have thought that it would surely be panned for the huge amount of flashbacks and passive voice. I mean, an editor today for
Mm-hmm.
YA would grab that book and say, "Go back and rewrite it." Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
For
pretty
those of you
much.
listening to this, Brian is drawing a big red cross right across the screen. Yeah.
Uh, here, here's what I'll give him. He tried to tell a story in a different way,
Mhm.
and it's worth trying. I
Yes.
think it's always worth trying to tell a story in a different way. This one didn't work, and sometimes an entire book won't work. I think that it doesn't necessarily make him a bad writer. Obviously, he's
No.
won
No.
prizes,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it just this one wasn't a hit for us.
No.
But it was a hit that made him hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's a good point. And I suppose if you're a lover of Hunger Games style books, you're probably not going to love this unless you're an author exploring different stylistic approaches. And so
yes,
I agree with you. There's this is clearly a good writer in the sense that Ishiguro has a way with words and it's very
hmm
erudite, it's very literary, and I
there's
couldn't.
scenes that are nice.
Oh
In this.
yeah, yeah. And I couldn't help when I looked through the reviews. I couldn't help thinking that the early reviews, which were from the literary pundits who probably felt compelled to gush. But if you look at the
hmm
later reviews, where it's come into, this is maybe a YA book that people should read, there's going to be boring.
Yeah,
I mean, they don't hold back, So,
yeah,
and people who say, well, I saw the huge number of positive reviews and I thought, well, I better read this. And
yeah,
then how disappointed was I? And I thought, yeah, I echo that. That's why I'm definitely with the one-star camp for that, for sure.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
in a sense, I did think that the way Ishiguro had the world slowly unfold from Kathy's eyes, and like you say, she's not a sharp character. She doesn't appear to desire much, and so
Yeah.
maybe that is the point of the novel, is that the mystery is maintained by the fact you have this kind of fairly ordinary character placed in an out of the ordinary world, trying to make sense of things that are sort of slowly dawning on them, that their life is not going to be the special life that they thought they were going to have.
That all kids think they're going to have.
Yeah, yeah. But,
Maybe that's part of it.
I don't
It's
know.
a downer book.
It's a downer book. It's a downer book.
You need to have a downer.
Yeah. So maybe we need some up takeaways for people. What do you think?
All right. Yeah, I've got one, if not two, but I'm willing to let you go first if you'd like.
Okay, I'm going to leave with my downer takeaway.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to write a dreary, all hope is lost book, could you at least make it entertaining to read?
Yeah, I agree. I think you need something to break up the monotony, and think the mystery had potential, but maybe there needed to be a little more revealed earlier on, more breadcrumbs or some twists or something to just give the readers a little bit more to go on versus literary credibility.
Throw me a freaking bone here.
Throw me a freaking bone. Come on. Here's my second takeaway, also phrased in the same way. If you're going to break the rules, ask some people to see if it works first. Because I think everyone should try things, try new things, try a version of something that you saw once. Try it, run it by some people, and make sure that they think it works or that it's interesting, because you're going to put people off when you try to do something different. Doesn't mean you shouldn't do something different, but you should at least get a little bit of feedback first, because they might even have ideas to help you take that interesting idea to the new level.
Yeah, well said. I mean, you think if you had a group of young adult enthusiasts who are beta readers for this book, I'm pretty sure that it wouldn't have ended up being written the way it is. But because it was written probably for a literary contract, so somebody probably went to Ishiguro and said, we need you to write another Remains of the Day, but we want it aimed at a younger audience. We need it literary, so it's used in schools, blah, 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 whatever. Who knows?
Yeah.
I'm making it all up. But it's kind of, it's interesting what you say about the take on things, because that's actually my third takeaway, which is kind of, I know we're leading to a writing prompt later, but you could actually consider this entire book to be one giant writing prompt, because I would love to see the premise rewritten in a more modern young adult style. Current young adult fans would struggle to digest this book, but if it's kind of rewritten, first person, present tense, maybe flicking around points of view, go for the suspense, add in some twists, throw in a Netflix instant gratification sort of style. As you said, the basic world and premise is interesting.
Yeah,
it's been done before, but that doesn't mean it can't be done well again.
Yeah, I agree. I think that would be really interesting to see someone kind of remake this in 2015 with 2015 sensibilities.
Yeah.
That would be cool. They're a big challenge to our listeners out there.
That's right. First of all, you got to get through the book.
Yeah. Well, I've got a prompt of the week that could help them out a little bit. So, prompt of the week: what if your life was planned out for you from the beginning? How would you try to find and use your little bits of freedom? How would your ideas and decisions be different?
There you go. Is everything preordained or not?
Is it? You can answer the question, the prompt of the week, at thesplitbookreviews.com. You can email us at podcast@thesplitbookreviews.com for any suggestions, and we've been getting some great ones lately.
Oh, yes.
Or you can, or you can go over to iTunes, write us a review, which helps us to reach more authors and readers, and ultimately helps us to keep pushing this podcast, to keep doing it. So those are your three things. Respond to the prompt. Write something. Email us with your suggestions and write us a review. These things help us considerably to keep the ship moving.
And to make us plow through books like Never Let Me Go. We're doing it for you. We're doing it for you.
Doing it for you guys. Yeah. It's for you.
Yeah.
So next week, we have a book. It's aimed at a little bit of a younger audience. It's called Rain, Reigen, Reigen, by Anne M. Martin. And I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on it, Robert. I thought it was a delightful little tale. And yeah, it'll be totally different because it's a lot faster paced.
That's right. Yeah, half the number of words that are in Never Let Me Go. And recommended to us by Shireen as well. So a big thank you and shout out to Shireen for recommending Rain Rain, because I probably wouldn't have picked up that.
Oh, same.
And a book, actually, by the way, that has 0, 1, and 2 stars.
It's a 4.8 average.
Yeah,
4.8 average. I was really impressed by that, for sure. Cool. Well, this has been The Split. I'm Bryan Cohen. That's Robert Scanlon. Come back next week for Rain Rain, and we will make sure not to go away like the clouds that we hope will go away. Yes. Rain, rain, go away. All right.
If you happen to visit the doctors as well, you make a trip to the doc over the next week. Just be a little bit careful. After reading that Never Let Me Go, I'm starting to wonder.
Yeah. Ugh.
See you all next week, folks.
Thank you guys for watching. Somewhere on this page is a subscribe button to the Split channel. We do reviews every week. We would love it if you followed us every single week. Isn't that right, Robin?
That's exactly right. Follow us now. Hit the subscribe button.
Do it.